All right, today's video is about how to create a clay cup. Here are some tools you're going to need. You'll need a ruler, you'll need a wooden carving tool, a rolling pin, make sure your rolling pin is nice and clean, and you're going to need some water. So to start this off, everyone will get a clay ball, and I'll be the one in charge of handing that out, so just come see me whenever you're ready. And the idea is we're going to flatten this down. So I'm going to use the weight of my body to really flatten this down. And the idea is then we would use the rolling pin to roll this out. And some people like to roll it like this, and it does okay. But I find if you roll it from the middle like this, you notice I'm able to actually transfer more of my weight. Now here's the idea. Your clay should be a slab which is 10 inches long and 5 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. My clay slab has now been rolled out enough where I could do some measuring, and it's clearly more than 10 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. And what I want to think about is cutting it in a straight line 10 inches long. So we go from the edge, we go all the way down to 10. And remember, the idea is that it's 5 inches wide. So we measure it up across the top. We go across to the number 5. And the idea is I'm creating a rectangle. So I've got a 10 by 5 rectangle. At some point, before you start the next step, please etch your name somewhere so that we have a record of whose this is. So I'm just using my carving knife very lightly, and I'm etching Mr. D. This is the part where we're going to start to turn it into a cylinder. So here's the first thing you should do. We're going to prepare to connect the edges. The top edge and the bottom edge are going to be connected. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to start making little lines. Some people call this scoring. So in clay, this is called scoring. It's just a bunch of little lines, and then I'm going to go in for a little bit of my water, and I'm just going to put some water across the top. Then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing to this bottom part down here. I like to think of it as I'm attaching two edges of Velcro together. So I'm scoring it, and I'm making it wet. And now it's time to connect it. So I can stand it up like this, like a little wall, but the idea is I'm trying to curl it so that it becomes a cylinder. So very slowly, you don't want to do this too fast, you don't want any rips or cracks. So I've made it into a cylinder. Now you can't really leave it just like this. You need to really attach this well. So you notice how there's like a little seam right here. You want to really attach that by putting your non-dominant hand through. Then you're going to take your carving tool and you're just going to start to spread it together. It's like you want the piece to become one. You've got these two sides and you want to just spread them together. I'm going to take the other side, so I'm just switching it around like this, putting my non-dominant hand in there like that, and I'm spreading it like so. So now it feels like the pieces are more connected, like they belong together. I'm going to smooth that out with some water. So a little bit of water here. You'll notice a little bit of water goes a long way. But now you see the inside part has a seam also. I need to go down through there, and I need to smooth that part out too. So I'm going down in, and I'm smoothing it out. And you can use your fingers for this. You can use the carving tool for this. And don't forget the top part. You want to smooth that out too, so that we have a rounded cylinder shape. Oh, look at that seam in there. If you can still see that seam, then you are running the danger of your cup coming apart. So we spread it like this. Then we get some water down there. You could even dip your tool into the water, and that will allow you to more smoothly spread it out. Now we've got the cylinder shape. Now all you need to do is start to make a triangle with your hand. We're trying to create the bottom of the cup. So I make a little triangle, right? I'm going to hover it over it and slowly put it down on top until my clay has become a triangle shape. Now we're going to start to create a Y shape. All right, we want to connect all these. So remember that scoring? We're going to score this whole triangle again. So I'm going to go right around, and I'm scoring the inner edge because we're eventually going to connect this to make a Y shape, or almost like a tripod. So I'm putting some water on it, I'm smushing it together, and it's becoming like a letter Y or like a peace symbol. It makes more sense to see the Y a certain way. And now it's just a matter of smoothing off this little area where there was a crack and there was that separation. I'm going to smooth that off. I want it to be able to be a functional cup where water could flow into it and not spill out the bottom. So I've got my tripod. Now it's able to stand on its own. It's completely closed up and it's ready to go. I can flip this over. And now I've got myself a cup. Now, with typical cups, you don't want to be drinking out of anything that'd be too sharp for your mouth. So you would smooth this off. And now it's just a waiting game. There'll be a designated shelf for this project for it to just kind of sit there and dry. That will take a few classes. And then when it's dry, it's ready to go. After a day or two, you'll notice that it's actually bone dry. Is no longer able to be molded, and it's ready to start glazing. So the glaze is the special paint. It's almost this like liquid glass. So in order to start this, you're going to need a few materials. You need a painting palette, a paintbrush, and of course some glaze. So for me, I'm going to keep this really simple. I just want to paint this with just green. You can have any kind of color combination you want. I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to make it green. There is one huge rule when it comes to glazing your clay, and that is that you may not glaze the bottom. So what I mean is the part that actually is going to touch the table, your tripod. Do not put any glaze on that because it actually ends up sticking to the kiln, and the kiln, as we know, is that machine that fires up the clay and makes it hard and shiny. So really the only rule is don't glaze the bottom. You can glaze the top of this, the sides, the inside. The more paint you put on, the shinier it's going to be. So really glob that glaze on there. You'll notice it dries really fast, and this is one of those only times I'll say really put a lot on there. Now you'll notice I've got the whole thing glazed in there. Some of the glaze is still wet, but you'll notice it dries really, really quickly. So it'd be time to let this dry for a little bit longer, and then we put it in the kiln. The next time you see it, it would be ready to take home and be nice and shiny. Here we have a finished cup. It has been fired, so you can notice the green, which was kind of a lighter green, has gotten a little bit darker, and it's a lot shinier now. It's got this nice smooth feel to it. And this is your finished cup using the tripod base. Thanks for watching.